Good evening, everyone. Tervan Saranai.
Everyone, China, sir.
Thank you. Please mute your microphones and we're going to start the program. Good evening, everyone. So today is Poson full moon day, which is important to Sri Lankans especially. And now we are going to start our offerings to the Buddha first, and then we'll continue the Dhamma discussion. Someone may lead the precepts. Please recite Namo Tassa 3 times to observe the precepts. Can someone turn on the microphone and lead?
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
So a layperson should take the precepts. Repeat after me. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammang saranam gacchami. Sanghang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranam gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu miccācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapama dattana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Tisaranena saddhiṃ pañcaseelaṃ dhammam sadukam surakhitam katva pamadena sampade tabbam. Now you may mute the microphones. So now we have prepared all the offerings in order to offer to the Buddha. And first we will homage to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and then we'll offer all the offerings by reciting stanzas. First, let us recite together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itepiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho විජ්ජාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති බුද්ධං ජීවිතං යාව නිබ්බානං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච බුද්ධාං අතීතාච යේච බුද්ධානාගතා අච්චුප්පන්නාච යේ බුද්ධාං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං බුද්ධෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං පාදපං සුවරුත්තමං බුද්ධේයෝ කලිතෝ දෝසෝ බුද්ධෝ කමතු තම්මමං ස්වාක්ඛාතෝ භගවතා ධම්මෝ සංදිට්ඨිකෝ අකාලිකෝ ඒහි පස්සිකෝ ඕපනයිකෝ අච්ඡත්තං වේදිතබ්බෝ විඤ්ඤූහිති ධම්මං ජීවිතං යාව නිබ්බානං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච ධම්මාං අතීතාච යේච ධම්මානාගතා පච්චුප්පන්නාච යේ ධම්මාං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං ධම්මෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං ධම්මං ච ත්‍රිවිධං වරං ධම්මේ යෝ කලිතෝ දෝසෝ ධම්මෝ කමතු තම්මමං සුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ උජුපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ ඥායපටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ සාමීචි පටිපන්නෝ භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ යදිදං චත්තාරි පුරිස යුගානි අට්ඨ පුරිස පුග්ගලා ඒස භගවතෝ සාවක සංඝෝ ආහුනේයෝ පාහුනේයෝ දක්ඛිනේයෝ අංජලි කරණීයෝ අනුත්තරං පුඤ්ඤක්ඛෙත්තං ලෝකස්සාති සංඝං ජීවිතං යාව නිබ්බානං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි යේච සංඝා අතීතාච යේච සංඝා නාගතා පච්චුප්පන්නාච යේ සංඝාං වන්දාමි සබ්බදා නත්ති මේ සරණං අඤ්ඤං සංඝෝ මේ සරණං වරං ඒතේන සච්ච වජ්ජේන හෝතු මේ ජය මංගලං උත්තමංගේන වන්දේහං සංඝං ච ත්‍රිවිධෝත්තමං සංඝේයෝ කලිතෝ දෝසෝ සංඝෝ කමතු තම්මමං වන්දාමි චේතියං සබ්බං සබ්බඨානි සුපතිට්ඨිතං සාරීරික ධාතු මහා බෝධින් බුද්ධ රූපං සකලං සදා යස්ස මූලේ නිසින්නෝව සබ්බාරි විජයන්නකා අත්තෝ සබ්බං යතං සත්තා වන්දේ තං බෝධිපාදපං ඉමේ ඒතේ මහා බෝධි ලෝකනාතේන පූජිතා අහං පිතේ නමස්සාමි බෝධිරාජා නමත්තුතේ ඉච්ඡේව මච්ඡන්ත නමස්සනීයං නමස්සමානෝ රතනත්තයන් යං පුඤ්ඤාභිසන්දං විපුලං අලත්තං තස්සානුභාවේන හතන්තරායු නිවේදයාමි සම්බුද්ධං වීතරාගං මහා මුනිං නිමන්තයාමි සුගතං ලෝකජෙට්ඨං නරාසභං යාවතා භගවා ලෝකේ තිට්ඨේය තව සාසනං තාවතා පතිගන්හාතු පූජා ලෝකානුකම්පයා සද්ධාය සම්පදිත්තේන දීපේන තමදංසිනා තිලෝකදීපං සම්බුද්ධං පූජයාමි තමෝනුදං සුගන්ධිකාය වදනං අනන්ත ගුණගන්ධිනා සුගන්ධිනාහං ගන්ධේන පූජයාමි තථාගත වන්න ගන්ධ ගුණෝපේතං ඒතං කුසුම සංතතින් පූජයාමි මුනින්දස්ස සිරිපාද සරෝරුහේ සම්මා සම්බුද්ධ නාමෝ යෝති ලෝකේ පච්චයාරහෝ සනාතෝ පතිගන්හාතු පානීයං පරිකප්පිතං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධ නාමෝ යෝති ලෝකේ පච්චයාරහෝ සනාතෝ පතිගන්හාතු ගිලාන පච්චයං ඉමං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධ නාමෝ යෝති ලෝකේ පච්චයාරහෝ සනාතෝ පතිගන්හාතු සබ්බං සද්ධාය පූජිතං කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං කමමේ භන්තේ භූරි පඤ්ඤ තථාගත කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං කමමේ ධම්ම සම්දිට්ඨික අකාලික කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං කමමේ සංඝ සුපටිපන්න අනුත්තර ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තිය ඉදං මේ පුඤ්ඤ කම්මං ආසවක්ඛයා වහන් හෝතු සබ්බ දුක්ඛා පමුඤ්චතු ඉමාය බුද්ධ පූජාය කතාය සුද්ධ චේතසා චිරං තිට්ඨතු සද්ධම්මෝ ලෝකෝ හෝතු සුඛී සදා සාදු සාදු සාදු. පින්නතුනි අද ඔස්වන් පුර පසළොස්වක පොහොය දවස. ඉතින් අද දවසේ අපි සූදානම් වෙන්නේ ටික වෙලාවක් ධර්ම සාකච්ඡාවක් සිදු කරන්න. Dear Dhamma friends, thank you for joining today from Canada and from Malaysia, and the participants, the people who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook. We all welcome you all to the Edmonton Tisarana Vihara, Canada Mindfulness Meditation Institute. Today is the June full moon day, which is significant and very important for Sri Lankans. Sri Lankans received the Buddhism from India, and the message brought by Venerable Mahin, the son of Emperor Ashoka. And he arrived in Sri Lanka 236 BC, before the Christ. And since that day, we Sri Lankans celebrate June full moon day with multiple spiritual and cultural activities. Likewise, the other Asian Buddhist countries also received the Buddhism from India, the messengers sent by Emperor Ashoka in different times. So this is important for us, for Sri Lankans. That's why the CMMI organized this special occasion to venerate the Buddha and commemorate the Venerable Mahinda. So I would like to invite our audience to join for this conversation to discuss some teachings related to us, related to our daily life. And there's a specific teaching that we received from Venerable Mahinda when he arrived in Sri Lanka. On that day, the King Devanam Piyatis, was going for hunting, and Venerable Mahinda and his fellows arrived at uh, Mihintale, which is in north central Sri Lanka, and he addressed the king, and they had a very nice conversation regarding their wisdom. And the king dropped off his bow and arrows, and he accepted the teachings of the Buddha, and he took refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Since that day, the king was the first supporter to propagate the Dhamma in Sri Lanka. Then, in that sense, Venerable Mahinda and all the other monks together organized a first ordination with the support of the king, and they established the Buddha's dispensation, the Dhamma, in Sri Lanka. So that is how we Sri Lankans received the teachings of the Buddha. And from that day onwards, the Buddhist culture established. And later, in the same year, in December, Venerable Sangamitta, the sister of Venerable Mahinda, arrived in Sri Lanka with a branch of the original Bodhi tree. With her arrival, there were 16 type of groups of people who brought different cultures to Sri Lanka. Actually, they came to Sri Lanka to treat to the Bodhi tree with the king's order. And then they both together spreaded the Dhamma in Sri Lanka, and along with the king, the whole country started to follow the Buddha Dhamma. So that's how we started this journey. That's a part of the history, and now we can spend some time to discuss some important Dhamma related to our daily practice. The audience is open for the questions, and I would like to see some of your faces. If you could turn on your cameras. And you are not, the Zoom participants are not connected to the social media, YouTube or Facebook. And feel free to open your camera. And those who are watching from YouTube, and they can text me if you have any questions regarding our conversation. The first conversation that Venerable Mahinda and the King Tissa had was about a specific sutra, which we call uh, Chulla Hatti Padopama Sutta. And that's a quite lengthy sutra. And related to that, there's another sutra we call Mahahatti Padopama Sutra, the elephant footprint. Hatti means the elephant, Pada means the foot or the footprint. And that sutra describes how important Buddha's appearance, and the other sutra describes uh, the importance of Four Noble Truths. We all aware of the Four Noble Truths, which is the Noble Truth of suffering, dukkha, and the Noble Truth of origin of suffering, dukkha samudaya, and the cessation of suffering, nirodha, and the path to lead to cease the suffering. There's a fourth noble truth, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Four Noble Truth has some important informations that we should closely and attentively listen and study and practice. So, what is suffering? How you understand? How do you understand suffering? What is your definition? What is your understanding? Go ahead, Adrian.
I would say attachment.
Mhm. And what else?
Well, for me, I would describe it as a lack of wisdom or a lack of awareness to what we are attached to.
Hmm. So, attachments and what else? Feel free to share your understanding.
It could be painful or happy sensations.
Mhm. Painful or happy sensations, okay.
May I speak, Bante?
Go ahead, please.
To me, is unsatisfactoriness or uneasiness arising from all our senses.
Okay. Any other thoughts? So when we closely look into the suffering, the original word that Buddha described was dukkha. Dukkha has been translated into many languages, especially in English. It says pain or suffering or dissatisfaction and so forth. But suffering, people see only the unhappiness, and they see only the unhappiness part of that term. But according to the Buddha, suffering describes happiness and unhappiness both. It is not only about the painful experience. Why? When we talk about the cause of suffering, you will understand how it describes as happiness and unhappiness. Why? The reason for the suffering or the cause of suffering is desire or craving. Tanha janeti purisa. Purisa means the selfness. Then Buddha said, Tanha janeti purisa. The craving create or the craving generate the selfness. And the cause of suffering is craving, desire, tanha. Then tanha describes or craving describes for anything. It can be happiness, it can be unhappiness. It can be satisfaction, it can be dissatisfaction. It cannot be limited to only a dissatisfaction. We have to use different terms to describe suffering, that because the language is not rich enough to describe what Buddha exactly meant. Then we need to use different terms. So that's why it's quite difficult to understand. So therefore, how we understand the Four Noble Truth, first we need to see the suffering as suffering or dukkha as dukkha. Let's say, does dukkha permanent? It fluctuates. It changes. Let's say, happiness is not permanent. It changes. Does the unhappiness permanent? No. That also fluctuates. Then we experience both conditions. We experience both conditions. Sometimes we happy, sometimes we unhappy. And where the dissatisfaction fitting in there? Because the happiness is not permanent and we can't hold it permanently. But when we build our selfness or the journey with the happiness or the satisfaction, it never lasts. It changes. Then with the ignorance, because of the lack of wisdom, then we start to experience the dissatisfaction. Why we experience both satisfaction and dissatisfaction? Ignorantly, we do not understand they are subject to change, and then that, because of the ignorance about the cause of suffering. When the person clearly understands the cause of suffering or cause of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, there when still these two conditions are subject to change. But the person will not fluctuate. The person will not change. Why? Person understands those are subject to fall apart or change. They fluctuate. Then the person who do not understand the cause of suffering, cause of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, then he or she always being dissatisfied and insatiable. Why? That lack of wisdom brings that insatiableness. Hope that makes sense. The lack of wisdom brings insatiableness or dissatisfaction. Plus, satisfaction also comes through the ignorance. Since we do not clearly understand the cause of suffering, then the cause or the origin of suffering is craving, desiring. Those desire arises through the six sensory objects. What are the six cravings? Craving for sights, rupa tanha. Craving for sounds, saddha tanha. Craving for tastes, rasa tanha. Craving for smells, ghana tanha. Craving for uh, tangible contacts or bodily contacts, pottabba tanha. And craving for thoughts. What is the word for craving for thoughts?
Dhamma-tanha.
Dhamma tanha. And we have heard Dhamma as a positive aspect. But Dhamma means a common term to describe all the good and bads, all the conditions. Dhamma is a term to describe all the phenomena, all the conditions. Then that's why it says kusala dhamma, kusala dhamma. Kusala dhamma is wholesome actions. Akusala dhamma is unwholesome actions. Punya dhamma, papa dhamma. And dhamma means simply the nature. Simply the nature. And so there are six cravings, six doors of cravings, desire. And whatever we condition through the six sensory objects, they become tanha, or they become, there's another term to say that, aggregates or skandha. And Buddha says the birth, aging, sicknesses, and so forth. All these conditionings are the suffering. And summarizingly, clinging to five aggregates are the suffering. Let's say we create suffering through the six senses, and we have many definitions for them. But end of the day, attaching to or clinging to five aggregates or skandhas is the suffering. How these five aggregates or skandhas being created or generated? They are created through the six senses. They are not free from six sensory objects. They are completely generated through the six sense basis. Even now, at this moment, while listening, while watching, we keep creating aggregates. But it depends on the person's processing whether they cling to it or not. Clinging part is a different thing, but first we experience the aggregates. There's no such worldly experience without five aggregates. We experience the whole world through the aggregates, skandhas. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with experiencing the aggregates because we can't escape or we can't avoid or skip the aggregates. But the matter is how we deal with it. Six senses are not the issue. The issue or the trouble or the situation is how we deal with them and how we practice and how we apply and how we process those experiences. That's the matter. Then craving generates aggregates. That's the cause. And then we experience satisfaction and dissatisfaction, suffering. That's how we see it. And then the third one is the cessation of suffering. So in, in the terms of that cease the suffering, how we do it and what we going to cease. Are we going to cease the suffering or are we going to cease the cause of suffering? I need an answer from the audience. Are we going to cease the suffering or are we going to cease the cause of suffering?
Cause of suffering. That's what we need to do.
Does anyone agree for that?
Mhm.
You can nod. Okay. If okay, then let's see where the world always being fought with and attached to, and where the world always being struggled with. They try to overcome the suffering. They try to overcome the dissatisfaction. They try to overcome the satisfaction. That is where they have been stuck. Those who tries to overcome the suffering or the outcome of the craving, there they are stuck. There they suffer. They never end up with this suffering. Why? As long as they don't see the cause of suffering, there is no cessation of it. We should not try to cease the suffering. We should try to cease the cause of suffering. there's a metaphor for that. That if we really want to destroy or uproot a well-grown tree, a person can cut off the branches. A person can cut off the branches, maybe not at once, periodically we keep cutting it. But the tree is well rooted, well grown. Though we cut the branches, the branches will come back. That means we can keep suppressing the suffering. Let's say we are dissatisfied and we experience painful experiences, then we want to change the condition to a different platform. But the performer or the actor or the actress is the same. They just switch the platform or the audience or the stage. Maybe from unhappiness to happiness, dissatisfaction to satisfaction, believing that I'm free from suffering, or it's a relief for them. And sometimes people say, "Oh, I feel I'm enlightened," for that temporary change. Yes, that's true. Nothing wrong with it. But the bottom line, they never understand that will fluctuate again, that will change. And what happens when it changes, they start to worry, cry, lament. They keep running around the world. We Sri Lankans run to the fortune tellers and check our horoscope and maybe do some traditional customs, or maybe we believe in black magics like Malaysians, and we just run around and try to overcome that dissatisfaction or unhappiness, giving or thinking that someone is doing this suffering for me, or maybe someone is creating it. And maybe Westerners go to scientists to see how we can overcome the suffering. Well, none. And no one can overcome it for us. What we have to do, we need to understand the cause of this dissatisfaction. And the cessation comes to the practice in that sense because when a person is wise enough, the person will never be satisfied with cutting off branches. The person will practice and try and determine to uproot the complete tree, remove all the particles of the roots. Why? The person knows cutting off branches is not enough. It's good for temporary happiness. It's a temporary solution, not permanent. Then, when the person's wisdom is enhancing, he or she will seek for the complete cessation of the cause of suffering. And if we come back to our 6 cravings, how we understand, how we see the cessation of causes through the 6 senses, then we saw these 6 senses create the suffering, dissatisfaction or satisfaction. And that is the origin of suffering, origin of issues, origin of world. And then how we sees it. And Buddha said these six sensory objects and the experiences are the five aggregates, which is the major cause of suffering. And how we seize them, and how we turn it back and revise it, unlink it. Any thoughts? How we seize the cause. Feel free to talk. No need the permission.
Following the Noble Eightfold Path.
That's a big answer, but I need something simple. How we revise and how we understand these six sensory objects, which are creating the process of suffering, and then how we revise them, how we untie them.
Bante, may I have permission to speak?
I already given.
Thank you. Uh, from from what I see, okay, where there's one phrase that strikes me. I'm not sure whether Bante, maybe you can clarify this. Okay, it says, "Whoever sees the Dharma sees the Buddha." Okay, I'm not sure uh, whether Bante can help clarify this statement, because uh, the teachings to me is very deep, hard to understand. But sometimes in the little things that we carry out in our daily life comes in a flash to us, then we seem to see a lot of clarity. Okay, I'm not sure whether Bante would like to comment on this. Thank you.
Seeing the Buddha and seeing the Dhamma, or seeing the Dhamma and seeing the Buddha. That means uh, it has different terms to describe actually. When the person sees the Buddha means it's not just physically seeing. The Buddha means the wisdom or the understanding or realization. When the person realizes the Dhamma, accordingly that person directly sees the Buddha. And when the person meets the Buddha and listen to him and follow the Dhamma, and again he sees the Dhamma. One way or another. So the person who sees the Dhamma, knows the Dhamma, that person maybe physically can't see the Buddha, but he is seeing the Buddha, which is he takes the refuge to the Buddha. And the person who takes the refuge to the Buddha and follow his path, and he sees the Dhamma. And it is also only a wise person can see the Buddha and the Dhamma, not the unwise. And what we see as the Dhamma, which is Four Noble Truths, but we follow the Noble Eightfold Path. When we see the Buddha, it is only to understand the Four Noble Truths. And when we follow the path, it is the Noble Eightfold Path. Any other questions or concerns? Any thoughts, especially regarding the cessation of suffering? How we seize the suffering, or how we seize the cause of suffering by seeing the sensory objects.
Bante,
Mhm.
when we see something nice that we like, we do not start to have great lot of thoughts about it, and we do not cling to it. Or when we are not feeling good in our senses or in our body, we do not also create stories about it, and we do not let it disturb our mind. We seize it as it comes and it goes. We do not take it personally. Thank you, Bante.
Thank you. Adrian?
I like how Anne said it, and the way I was thinking of putting it in my own words is through that wise attention, I would describe it as naming it. So if I'm aware of something coming through senses, say through the eyes, rather than personalizing it and saying, I am seeing this, and then starting to create feelings about it, having a perception on it, and maybe developing that craving, I can just remind myself, I am not seeing, the eye is seeing. Or if I'm hearing something, that whether it's a pleasant or unpleasant, rather than saying, oh, I'm hearing, my favorite song, and then having those feelings and those stories and those memories come, is to remind myself, no, the ear is hearing. And so naming it and recognizing it as it's happening.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts?
I think when we have too many expectations, when we expect something to happen, then even suffering comes automatically when that doesn't happen. So always we have too many expectations about our kids, a lot of things, and when they are not in our control and when they don't fulfill our expectations, always suffering comes.
So is it wrong, the association or associate the world and having a family life and all those things?
So we should not try to control things. We should
Hmm.
let everything flow because everything comes and goes. So if we try to control everything very rigidly, then problems come.
Yeah, the not understanding the actual factors can be a cause for many dissatisfaction, because we, as you said, we try to control all it and we try to handle it, but there are things that we need to control and handle definitely, but it should be wisely. The wisdom is the key practice. So when we experience any of the senses, that depends on how you process the object, and that creates or generates the satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And if we have a clear understanding how it has been processed, that is where we need to use or apply the yoniso manasikara, or the wise attention, or the wisdom, not to let it process. It happens again and again. It constantly happens. But if a person is being wise and being aware, that is where we can revise it, unlink it. Otherwise, it will handle us. It's like, as usual, if we just let it happen, it's like the dog shakes the tail. But we have to get the control of it. And we have to not to let it process. It's up to us. So running here and there is not a solution. Or maybe keep listening to someone else's is not a solution. It's good for the knowledge, but it's not the true application. The application is within. It's not from outside. That's why Buddha said the pleasure or the displeasure is not outside of the world. Everything arises here within the person, within the individual. But the request, he requested to let be the world as it is. Let the world be as it is. Whatever comes, the world, there are only 6 worlds that we have through the senses, and let them be. And try to be wise and try to understand oneself rather than fighting back to the world. The fight can bring pleasure or displeasure, both. Nete kamayani chitrani loke sankapparago purisassa kamo tittanti tattariva tateva loko atetta dira vinayanti chandang. That's a Pali term for it. That the world always is different and beautiful and various. Let be the world as it is. Don't try to change the world. Why we being dissatisfied? Because we want to change the world. It never changes. It always stays as it is. The person has to change. We have to change. We need to change ourselves rather than trying to change the world. Then what is the world? There are 6 experiences, objects of the world, which are coming from the sense basis. And this entire life or entire body is the world of individuals. And I have my own world, you have your own world. If I keep trying to change yourself, your world, then my world is always being attacked to you. Then we build up a fight. And if you keep trying to change my world, then we both parties being attacked and fought, and we being attached to each to other. And if we can understand clearly how we can separate out these 2 worlds and mind our own business, we'll have less suffering. We'll have less dissatisfaction. But the thing is, we can't do that. We are not ready for it. We always want something, need something to hang on, to fight with, to talk about. Chittanupassana or the contemplation of mind is one of the most important teachings in Satipatthanas that teaches how we should mind our own mind, look after our own mind. Why? I always focus on others. Oh, are they angry? Are they upsetting? Are they lustful? Are they ignorant? But I don't see my ignorance. I don't see my anger. I don't see my lust. We always want others to be corrected. Then there's a teaching that we need to see internally and externally, which means we clearly understand whatever happens to me, that happens to others as well, but it is not to deal with them. It is not to worry about them. Whatever comes to them, it comes. And if we need to help, then we will. Otherwise, nothing to worry about it. It doesn't mean that we are being inhumane. We try to minimize and reduce the personal distractions. The world is not a distraction at all. The way how we accept and deal with it is the distraction or the matter. So therefore, instead of trying to correct the world, we are advised to correct oneself inside, within the person, and simply mind our own business. And so where this suffering or the cause of suffering exists, they are the six sensory experiences. Where this cause of suffering ceases, they are the six sensory bases. And what is the path to see or overcome the cause is the Noble Eightfold Path, the middle path. And it has been described as the foundation is Dana, Sila, Bhavana, which is generosity, moralities and meditation, mind cultivation, and then Sila, Samadhi, Panya, the highest level. The foundational level is Sila, Dana, Sila, Bhavana. The advanced level is Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila is again moralities, and then Samadhi is the right concentration. Panya is the wisdom. And these two layouts has been described as the path of liberation, because the Noble Eightfold Path is always has different aspects, and the fundamental practices, the basic practices is important to develop or build up the Noble Eightfold Path, because if the foundation is weak, the building will not last. The foundation should be strong enough. The foundation should be firm enough, steady enough to build the building. Otherwise, it will collapse. It's not sustainable. Okay, so any comments, questions?
Bante, can you please elaborate on the foundation again? What does Bante mean by the foundation?
The basic foundation is Dana, Sila, Bhavana, which is rightful practice. Dana is generosity, and generosity doesn't mean only that giving some donations and all the providing food or those things only. The actual intention or the actual expectation of dana is to overcome the craving, desiring, and to start the letting go. And how much we have given, that much we should be able to let go. But if we hold, it is lack of letting go. Dana doesn't mean only meal and the money. Dana is physical letting go and the mental letting go both. Sometimes we let go we physically let go a lot, but mentally a tiny bit. But if we can let go from the mind mentally, the physically letting go is nothing. The matter is, it's unable to do for many because we do not understand and we don't see the part of letting go from the dana. We always think only, we say, oh, giving dana is a way to overcome tanha craving, but I don't know. It's very hard to describe how much we have let go of tanha craving. And then the sila should be, it's not only about 5 precepts or 10 precepts or 8 precepts. It's about the lifetime dedication and the life, whether we live or not, we should be able to let go of the life, but we should not break any of the precepts. But if we are ready for that, that's how we are advised to practice. It's about the sacrificial. And the meditation is bhavana means cultivation, right? The mental cultivation. Before we reach the deeper levels of the mind or the meditation, we should be able to at least try something simple to develop the mindset. So many of us still struggle to have a steady mind for 5 minutes. But some of you are very talented and then you've been practicing this such a long time and it's easy. And some people, they just imagine and they just try to describe, oh, I'm not ready yet. But that readiness is not ready yet. As long as we start, then we have to start it to be ready. Without trying, we can't say. So I like that term that Westerners use, try it. Without trying, there's no outcome. And that there's a big misunderstanding of Westerners about Easterners, that these Eastern Buddhist followers, they think those Buddhists are always being mindful and they are being very good and they keep sitting all day and meditating. Never. There's a biggest misunderstanding. If it is so, there should be many miracles. It's a surprise day. No, it's completely opposite. So, and people think mind cultivation or the mental development is difficult. No, it's very simple. And the thing is, we make it difficult. So, the basic layout is dana, sila, bhavana. That brings the basic customs to the practice, the foundation. And that provides a good startup. And that is the uh, moral, that is the fundamental teaching of the Buddha, the one should start up with. Buddha never taught the Four Noble Truths for newcomers. He started with Dana, started with Sila, started with Bhavana. That's the basic, the foundation. Okay, any other thoughts? We'll spend maybe 10-15 minutes. Okay, so if you don't have any concerns or questions, we can wind up for today. Today we gathered to commemorate the Venerable Mahinda, the Buddha's disciple, the messenger who brought the message of the Buddha to Sri Lanka and who started the Sri Lankan dispensation of the Buddha. And that's how the Sri Lankan Buddhists exist in the world, because of Venerable Mahinda. And we are able to spread the Dhamma around the world, which is fortunate. And there are many monastics, male and female, who spread the Dhamma around the world. And some of them are rooted in Sri Lanka. And so we share the Dhamma in Asia and in around the world, and Europe, in the Europe and in the West, in Asia and everywhere. So it is a privilege to share this Dhamma with everyone, those who are interested in. And so we observe the precepts and offered to the Buddha homage to the Triple Gem. We listen to the Dhamma and discussed. And we shall share these merits with all heavenly beings and deities, and may they fulfill their wishes. With that intention, we may share the merits. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiram rakhantu sasanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiram rakhantu desanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiram rakhantu mang paranti. As well as all of our departed beloved relatives and friends of our family backgrounds, we may share these merits in loving memory of them. May they partake these merits and fulfill their wishes. Idam me jnatinang hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. Idam me jnatinang hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. Idam me jnatinang hotu sukita huntu jnatayo. So by the power of this accumulated merits, we all are be able to overcome this samsaric cycle and attain to the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana silissa niccam uddhapachayino chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukhang balan ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti minate samijjatu.
Sadhu, sadhu. Silavantam, gunavantam, punya.